Welcome back to the film room, everybody. I've read your comments. I know how much you have enjoyed these gap theory videos, and I am excited to bring you the NBA Finals edition, where we're going to look at clips from this series, and I'm going to show you how even at the highest level of basketball, these concepts of the gap theory happen all the time. And if you haven't seen the youth or college gap theory videos, you should watch those as well so that you can see that this framework works for every level of basketball. Now, I know some of you are new to my channel, so you're not familiar with the pillars of the gap theory, so I'm going to show you the framework of how you can view the game of basketball to make it simple to understand. Universally, what you want to do in the game of basketball is to make two defenders guard one person. And two of the most common ways to do that are to create mismatches and to win closeouts. And we're going to see how all of these three pillars interact with each other during a possession to create beautiful basketball. And none of this is possible without having great spacing, which is the foundation of the gap theory, because spacing creates gaps, and gaps create good offense. And because spacing is the key to all good offense, that's where we have to start. Now, you will have seen this in the youth video and the college video, but in today's game, there are two primary ways to space the court. One of them is a 5-out spacing, where you have two guys in the corner, two guys on the wing, and one guy at the top of the key. And the other traditional spacing would be a 4-out, 1-in situation, where you have corners, wings filled, and then you have your post player working somewhere in this area around the block or the post. Now, what makes the NBA unique compared to anyone else in the world is that their players are spaced so far away from the rim, because they traditionally use a lot of 4-around-1 spacing like you see here, but they also have the deepest three-point line in all of basketball at almost 24 feet away from the basket. These two things combined makes for these massive gaps that allow some of the most skilled players in the entire world to be able to get downhill. So what makes perimeter spacing so important is that when these players do get to the paint, this spacing creates impossible decisions for these help side defenders, and that's why you see so many open catch and shoot threes. So don't forget to pay attention to this spacing as we talk about the first pillar, making two people guard one. And one of the simplest ways that this happens is off of a drive and kick, because when a player drives towards the paint, if anybody comes over and does what's referred to as stunting, that puts two people on the ball, which means now they have the ability to kick it out to his matchup, and it leaves him open for a catch and shoot three. And one of the things I've heard you guys ask for is more examples of these things happening in the video, which is why this is a little bit longer of a video, but I want for you to see this stuff happening over and over again so that you can understand how often these gap theory principles are taking place almost every possession. Now, the second way that you'll see teams getting two people to guard one is by using ball screens. Every ball screen is designed to either create a mismatch or to get two people guarding the ball. As Chet goes to set this screen, he doesn't get a piece of Nembhard, so that means Toppin doesn't have to help. So they're going to rescreen, they do a better job, and that gets two people to guard one. As soon as that happens, Chet is now open, and if you can get him the ball, the offense is playing 4-on-3 with an advantage. And this is why the ability to make threes in the NBA is so important, because it forces defenders to go over the top of screens, which forces this defender to have to help. That creates this space right here where you can throw what's referred to as a short roll, and this is how post players get so many touches off of pick and rolls. Now, oftentimes the window to throw this ball in is very small, but guards have gotten so good at it because they understand that you can get this ball in a very small area, and the worst thing that could happen is it gets kicked. Now, in situations where they can't throw that short roll or pocket pass, that's when you see lobs being thrown to the rim. Turner is too high for him to get this ball to Harkenstein, so he puts it up over the top of the flat hedge and it leads to the alley-oop. And you'll see dozens of different passes to get the ball to the big, but the most important thing is understanding when two people are on the ball, guards need to get off it and get it to that big if he's available. So here's an example of both of these methods getting two people on the ball. The ball screen gets two people on the ball, which opens up Harkenstein, but instead of throwing it, SGA turns the corner, and now his drive and kick draws Siakam to the paint, and that leads to the kick out three. Now we'll revisit the pick and roll shortly, but I also want to talk about how the pick and pop creates this same advantage for the offense. Siakam is a great three-point shooter, so instead of rolling to get the pocket pass there, he pops, and when he catches it, look at the advantage he creates. If you help out of the strong side corner, you're leaving one of the best shooters for the Pacers wide open, and Harkenstein was helping on the ball screen, so now he's too late to recover, and it leads to this rhythm catch and shoot three. And here you'll see a virtually identical clip with Lou Dort setting a pick and pop. So keep in mind as you're watching these next possessions that these offenses are taking advantage of one of the pillars of the gap theory. They are doing what they can to make two people guard one to get somebody else open. Now, something that the Pacers and the Thunder did in this series was what's referred to as ghosting. This is a concept where instead of setting a screen, you're going to act like you're screening and you're going to slip underneath the man that you're supposed to hit to create confusion and or getting two people on the ball. So it's either going to allow guys to get downhill because they don't know if they're switching or not, or it's going to get two people on the ball handler, making the guy who's setting the ghost open for a three. So just the appearance of setting this screen gets Naismith to talk to Nembhard, and while he's trying to figure out what they're doing, Shea gets straight downhill, forces two people to guard one, which leads to a kick out three. And most teams won't set ball screens with guards because they don't want to give an easy switch opportunity to the defense, but by ghosting, it allows every player on the team to set a screen that can confuse the defense, which can lead to easy downhill drives or wide open catch and shoot threes. And the last offensive strategy I want to point out is this concept of rejecting a ball screen. On-ball defenders can get so caught up in worrying about what they're going to do with the ball screen coverage that they're susceptible to getting beat the opposite direction by the ball handler. And because the screener's defender is expecting the ball handler to go into the screen, it usually creates these wide open downhill drives for layups and dunks. Now we're going to look at how defenses rotate off of the pick and roll to try and take away these advantages. This is where you get into the chess match of a basketball game. The ball screen forces two people to guard one, and now Turner is going to catch this short roll. On the catch, Harkenstein tries to recover, and you have two people guarding one again because of the rotation, and now Shea is going to be responsible for guarding both, and instead of playing that advantage, Turner tries to score it, and they end up missing on that possession. And you'll see the exact same thing happen here. When Toppin gets open off of this step-up screen, the rotation comes over, and now you have two really good shooters in great spacing with only one guy to guard them, but Toppin tries to score and loses another possession when it could have resulted in a wide-open catch-and-shoot three. So even though these guys are phenomenal, they still make errors. If you watch the series, you'll probably remember when Harkenstein caught this short roll, the low man stepped up to rotate, and Chet did a great job of cutting to the basket and then missed this wide open lob. Now another strategy that's used is what's referred to as tagging. So a backside defender on this pick and roll will come over and try and take that roll man away. The problem with that strategy is if the ball gets thrown back to his original matchup, he's going to have a long closeout, which is why winning closeouts is another one of the pillars of the gap theory that we'll talk about later. So here's another example of tagging. As Shea gets to the middle on this ball screen and draws two defenders, you're going to see Tyrese have to tag Harkenstein to keep him from being open. Now Wallace is going to use good spacing by shaking or lifting up to create more space between him and Tyrese that leads to the open three. And this is why TJ McConnell's performance in the finals was so important for the Pacers, because historically TJ is not a good three-point shooter, so the Thunder attempted to go underneath these ball screens so that they didn't get two people on the ball, And when TJ hit this three, watch Tyrese Halliburton's expression from the bench. He knew how critical this was because if they could go under every ball screen, it took away a huge advantage in their pick and roll. So before we move on to the next pillar, I want you to watch this possession and only view it through the lens of our gap theory principles. It's going to start with a step-up ball screen that makes two people guard one. Tyrese throws the short roll to Toppin, and when he catches it, he's trying to win this closeout, which he does by shot faking and driving. That leads to two people guarding one again, and then the kick out leads to another opportunity to win a closeout. That is the way that you can view the game of basketball through the framework of the gap theory. So now as we look at the pillar of creating mismatches, we're just adding another layer on top of the foundation that we've already created. Now in most cases, creating a mismatch looks like a really quick guard that is a slow-footed defender, or you have a big in the post that can't be guarded by a smaller defender, and that's what we look for when it comes to mismatches. And those things did take place in this series, but it wasn't nearly as significant as the mismatches that both of these teams had with a personnel mismatch. Now, pretty much anyone who watched basketball this year knew that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was a one-on-one nightmare, and he would isolate in that mid-post area, and it was very difficult for teams to contain him. But if you paid attention in this series, Pascal Siakam from the Pacers was also a significant mismatch, doing virtually the same thing that Shai was doing for the Pacers, and he was difficult to stop the entire series as well. And this is the area of the gap theory that is unique to the NBA specifically, that's different than every other level of basketball. These are the most skilled offensive players on the planet. So while high school and college teams are trying to create mismatches, these two guys just are mismatches. So before we break down this concept and really dive into the intricacies of it, I want you to appreciate the greatness of these two players and what they displayed during the NBA Finals. Now, before we talk about how teams tried to stop these mismatches, I want to quickly give context to what winning a closeout means. And I would break down winning into three categories. If the defender has a late closeout, a capable shooter taking a catch-and-shoot three would be winning the closeout. If another defender rotates over to stop you, making the pass to his matchup is winning a closeout. And if the closeout is way too aggressive, driving past that defender and forcing two to guard one would also be winning a closeout. So now that we've established winning a closeout, let's go back to talking about creating mismatches. Both of these teams were looking for their personnel matchup the entire series. So as soon as Siakam came down the court and had Wallace guarding him, their team knew that they would make it a point to try and get the ball back to him to take advantage of that mismatch, and it resulted in a take foul because there was no way he could guard him. And the Thunder would do the same thing for Shai in what a lot of NBA players refer to as duck hunting. So they would find a defender that they wanted to have to guard Shai, and they would have his man go and set a ball screen, which forced the switch, and then everybody would get out of the way and let Shai go one-on-one. So both of these teams were doing the exact same thing, trying to create the mismatch situation that they wanted and then get out of their way for their superstar to score. The whole reason that creating mismatches is a key to good basketball is because no team is going to let one player dominate the game. So what you'll see right here is that when Siakam has the advantage, he is looking to see who is going to double team to stop him, because that makes two people guard one, and then he just finds the player that is being guarded by the person who double teams. So when you can create mismatches on the floor, you can anticipate that you are going to make two people guard one when somebody has to help. As soon as Shai commits to the ball, he kicks it out to the open man opposite, and now Shepherd has to win this closeout. And this goes back to why your spacing on the perimeter is so important. On this drive by Shai, the defense is going to rotate and then pay attention to what happens. You have two people on the ball, the defense is matched up here, and good perimeter spacing by these two players is going to make it impossible for the defender to guard both, and it leads to a kick out, one more, and an open three. And this was one of the key chess matches that was taking place during this playoff series. As soon as the double team comes, there's now 2 people guarding 1. So Shea gets off the basketball, it gets swung around, and J-Dub gets this out of control closeout, which is easy to win by driving it. He gets downhill and the defense doesn't rotate quick enough and he gets the blocking foul. Now another aspect of these scenarios is perimeter players understanding how to cut. So once Shea draws the double team again, I want you to pay attention to how J-Dub is going to cut right through the middle of the paint, and that pulls McConnell in, and now when the ball gets kicked out and swung, look at the closeout that Obi Toppin has to try and make on a really good shooter, and he could have gone one more to the corner to Lou Dort. So when you understand these schemes, you can actually notice these chess matches taking place on the court. Siakam has the advantage, the Pacers are trying to throw it in, and once it gets there, notice how McConnell is telling his big, move down to the room for better spacing. And then you can see Halliburton communicate to Siakam that the double team is coming from the low man, not from the top. And just like in the previous clips, the defense is matched up here, they're matched up down here, and this is where your 2-on-1 takes place, and McConnell decides instead of standing in the corner that he's gonna flash to the high post, and he ends up getting a mid-range jumper. And I would bet that the Thunder were very happy with the result of that possession. Now you'll get to see every aspect of the gap theory happening in one possession. It starts with Shea creating a mismatch, and then the defense is going to help, and now we have 2 people guarding 1. And this is where OKC needs to take advantage of the 4-on-3, but because nobody was in the room originally and they cut too late, now they have tight spacing or bad spacing. Turner is able to recover and full rotate, and they have to settle for this bad contested shot where they don't win a closeout, which is a perfect segue into our third pillar, which is winning closeouts, and I want you to see how often they happen. Anytime that somebody can make 2 people guard 1 and they kick it out, it will almost always trigger an opportunity to win a closeout, and this is where you have to have great feel and decisive decision making, and it's one of the things that amateurs really struggle with and NBA players do a great job of. If you look at Pascal Siakam right here, he is shot ready and he knows that Caruso has given him too much space, and the moment he catches this basketball, he wins the closeout by going right into a shot. So the key to being successful in this area is always knowing what your defender is doing and where he is. If you watch TJ's closeout, he is out of control right now, not able to stay in front of the ball, and Wiggins does a great job of getting straight downhill and not waiting to drive. And too many amateur players won't make a quick decision in these moments. As soon as Chet takes one step forward, Obi attacks his top foot and gets straight downhill and is able to finish because he made a quick decision. And these things are going to happen all game long. As Halliburton gets downhill, the ball gets kicked out to Turner, and this is that moment of truth. Do I drive it or do I shoot it? And here's another example of basically the same scenario. The ball is going to get kicked to the opposite corner. J-Dub was trying to help in the paint, and here is that closeout where a 0.5 decision has to be made, and Nembhard knocks down a nice 3. I like to use the terminology feeling the closeout. So you need to keep your eyes on the basket in case you need to shoot it, but you have to feel where that defender's at and how quickly he's coming at you. So as the ball gets kicked out, he needs to feel how close his defender is. He recognized that he was going too fast and he used a great shot fake. So before we move on, here's all 3 pillars of the gap theory. McConnell has a speed mismatch here, which allows him to get downhill to the paint. He draws a second defender, making 2 people guard 1, and as he kicks the ball to the corner, Siakam has to win this closeout by making the decision, do I shoot it or do I drive it? Now, I understand it can be very intimidating to watch the best players in the world seem like they do everything right, but I want to finish this video by showing you some of the mistakes that were made in this playoff series so you can be encouraged that even though these concepts are simple, the best players in the world still don't make right reads and they still make bad decisions just like the rest of us, and the goal is for us to minimize those mistakes and maximize how many times we do it the right way. So be encouraged as you watch these clips and make sure you're learning from their mistakes. Here's an example of the Pacers having bad spacing. Tyrese gets downhill, but because there's bad spacing right here, there's nowhere for him to go, and as they try and reset to get another advantage, Tyrese drives this bad closeout, but because of this bad spacing, they get 2 to the ball, and as he kicks it out, Toppin and Turner are standing too close to each other, and then Obi decides to shoot this shot rather than going one more to Miles, who is wide open. And I think it's normal for teams to have possessions of bad spacing, but I think it's good for you to see that even at the highest level, it happens here too. So here Shai gets a switch and he tries to drive and doesn't really get anything, and then you see Lou trying to do the same thing, and because everybody is clustered over on this left side, there is no room for anybody to get downhill to the rim, and they get a really bad contested 3. And here's one more example of where Tyrese got a switch onto Chet, so he's going to try and take advantage of this mismatch by getting downhill, but Siakam and Turner both cut at the wrong time, and you just get this cluster right here, and he ends up turning it over because there's nowhere to go. But one of the worst areas of mistakes that I saw is how many times a player drew a second defender and made 2 people guard 1 and had somebody standing wide open and made the decision to shoot it rather than pass the basketball. So as you watch these possessions, be reminded that even the best offensive players in the world get bad results when they make poor decisions after making 2 people guard 1. Thank you guys again for the support. Thanks for commenting, letting me know that this stuff is helping you wherever you're coaching or playing. I appreciate you guys liking this video, sharing this video, subscribing to the channel. I'll have more content for you coming out soon. And if you haven't watched the first 2 videos that I did on the gap theory that I talked about at the beginning of the video, they're right here for you to watch. Thanks for coming through. We'll see you next time in the film room.